The Outback doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about timetables, cell bars, or the neat red lines on your map. By day, it bakes you flat under a sky big enough to swallow countries. By night, it lowers a black lid on the world and lets the sand keep score. You learn quick. There's one rule when the horizons go dark and the wind starts talking through the spinifex. Don't stop when you hear the howls. I was a courier on a night run, just me, a long straight ribbon of bitumen, and the red dust that hangs in your lungs like unpaid rent. The thermometer had been cruel all day. Now the heat came back off the ground in slow breaths, and the stars looked close enough to bruise. Dingoes sang, sharp, keening calls that usually travel in pairs, but tonight the sound was wrong. Too many voices. Too even, like a choir that had learned a single nasty note. Curiosity loop number 1 slid open in my mind. Dingoes don't sing in harmony, not unless they're following something. A fuel stop back down the track. A station hand had slipped me a little carved charm. Nothing fancy, just iron, wood and twine for the road, he'd said, eyes fixed on a point somewhere behind me. If you hear the big howl, touch it to your skin, I laughed, because that's what people do when they'd rather not admit they're spooked. But the way his hand shook when he let it go made the joke. Taste sour. The Ute's high beams combed the verge. Heat ghosts shimmered. A wedge-tailed eagle lifted off a carcass and hauled the night with it. I kept my speed steady, knuckles white on the wheel, telling myself the song behind me was just dogs on a roo. Then the chorus fell silent in one slice like a conductor had dropped a hand. The Outback loves a silence like that. It's not empty. It's full of decision. Up ahead, something shifted across the road, a long, low shadow that didn't match any cattle, camel, or kangaroo I knew. It moved with a man's balance and a dog's confidence, crossing without hurry, pausing in the cone of my lights as if to be seen. Not yellow eyes, amber. Darker, thoughtful, catching the dust and holding it. The hackles on my neck rose like spinifex in a gust. I didn't brake. I didn't accelerate. The old rule isn't only about stopping. It's about choosing. Stopping is a kind of permission. I passed the spot and checked the mirrors even though I didn't want to. The verge was empty. No shape, no eyes, just the long black lane of nothing, and too far back for my lamps, a second set of lights that hadn't been there a minute earlier. No dust plume, no engine note. Just those lights, steady as a heartbeat on a monitor. Curiosity loop, Thamara 2 whispered. Who follows you out here without throwing dust? The charm the hand had given me swung from the mirror. It bumped my knuckles when I reached to steady it. For a ridiculous second the wood felt warm, like it had been in someone's pocket for hours. Then it cooled, and I told myself stories. About friction, about air vents, about anything but meaning. That's the trick of the bush at night. You can either be logical or alive, sometimes not both. The road lifted over a low rise and the land opened. Saltbush plains on one side, red dunes on the other, the silhouette of a distant mesa cutting teeth into the stars. The howl came then, not the dingo chorus. A single layered note that rolled. The dust in the gutters and rattled my window glass. It sounded old, older than fences, older than asphalt, somewhere between a warning and a welcome. My hand went to the charm before my brain voted. I pressed the ironwood to the inside of my wrist. The skin there fizzed, pins, needles, heat, then nothing. I thought of the station hand's eyes, how they'd refused to focus on my face as if naming me would put me in the story. A tumbleweed hopped the center line and skittered off into the dark. The second set of lights behind me grew larger. Still, quiet, still throwing no dust. I checked my fuel and found a lie in the gauge. Less than I'd thought out here, that isn't a detail. It's a sentence I could push onto the next servo or pull into a maintenance track and risk finding drums. Both options tasted like coins. The chorus of dingoes started up again, this time off the driver's side, pacing me through the scrub. I couldn't see them, but I could feel the rhythm, run, drift, run, like wolves working a fence line, except there are no wolves in Australia. Not officially, not anymore. The big howl came again, closer. It didn't ask, it announced. I tightened my grip. The road hummed under the tires like a wire drawn too tight. The mesa drew a little closer, or maybe the night pushed everything together. In the mirror, the quiet lights shifted lanes without swaying. Perfect, surgical. The shape crossed the road again in front of me, slow and deliberate, as if measuring me against the line on the map. The Outback rule burned through my head. Don't stop when you hear the howls, so I didn't. But the Outback has its own rules, and one of them is simple. If you don't stop, it did. Right in the center of the high beams, it lifted its head, and for a long second the night put on a face made of man and dog, and something that remembered both. The charm on my wrist warmed again. This time hot enough to sting, I kept driving. The thing stepped off the bitumen and paced the verge, easy as a jogger, waiting for me to make a mistake. The desert had decided, and I had just been seen. If you felt the chill of that first howl, stay with us. Subscribe before the night takes you. The Outback doesn't need monsters to scare you. It's already a coffin big enough to lie down in, a silence wide enough to bury a city. But that night, the silence wasn't empty. It was occupied. The thing had stepped off the bitumen and into the scrub, keeping pace with me, not rushing, not hiding, just there. Sometimes my high beams caught the edges of it, a flash of fur, a shoulder rising taller than the bonnet, eyes that didn't shine back like an animal's. They collected. The light swallowed it whole. The dingoes sang again, but softer now, distant. Not hunting, not challenging, more like announcing. Their notes rose and fell in ragged waves, always one step behind the shape I couldn't shake. Curiosity loop, bar one. Why would wild dogs, scavengers, survivors, follow something instead of flee from it? The charm on my wrist still burned faint, like an ember pressed to skin. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind me. The station hand's warning repeated itself in my skull. Touch it when you hear the big howl. He hadn't said anything about what to do when the howl kept moving with you. I drove another mile before I caught it again. A figure in the mirror, the second set of lights that had been stalking me. Gone instead, a shape loped along the highway's edge, reflected just for a heartbeat in red dust and moonlight. Upright, long arms, head tilted toward the sky as though it was listening for something. The air in the cab grew heavy, not hot, heavy, like breathing through cloth. My radio, dead for miles, sputtered once and crackled into a whisper. Not words, not English, just low, guttural tones that rose and fell in time with the thing's stride. My hair stood up on my forearms. Curiosity, loop narkatu. Was the radio broken, or had it become a mouthpiece for something older than stations and towers? I glanced down at the gauge, fuel needle sagging toward the red, my chest clenched. Out here running dry isn't just inconvenient, it's fatal, and the idea of stopping anywhere near this thing felt like offering myself up gift-wrapped. That's when the mesa appeared again, closer than before, looming like a sleeping giant against the stars, its flat top carved out of the night sky. Every Aussie knows the stories, even if they don't say them out loud. Dreamtime spirits bound in stone, guardians that punish trespass. Uluru may be sacred, but mesas carry their own teeth. The howls shifted, no longer behind. They spread left, right, surrounding. Dingoes fanning out in chorus, pushing me toward the mesa like a herd dog drives sheep. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles creaked. My headlights caught a dead kangaroo on the road. Fresh kill, the stench hit, sharp iron and rot. I swerved to avoid it and saw what had done it. Not clean bites, not car strike, claw marks, wide, deep, splitting hide and muscle like paper. The ute rattled back onto the road, my heart hammering against the wheel. Behind me, the chorus dropped into silence again, too sudden, too perfect, and in that silence came a new sound. A low growl, not outside but inside, crawling up through the floorboards, vibrating through the steering column. My teeth ached with it. It wasn't the engine. The ute's motor hummed steady, but the growl bled through anyway, as if the road itself had a throat and had decided to use it. The charm pulsed hot against my skin. I pressed it tighter, desperate, and for a second, just a second, I heard something layered under the growl, a voice, not English, not even human, but I understood the shape of it, a warning or a promise. The mesa loomed larger. The shape in the scrub kept pace. The Outback wasn't empty tonight, it was occupied, and I was being delivered. Some of you know this legend already. Drop the name you've heard for the Outback Wolf, I'll pin the one that matches what stalked me. The mesa was closer now, the road pulling me toward it like a magnet under sand. The scrub on either side thickened, shadows running alongside me, keeping time with the engine's thrum. The dingoes were gone, silent, scattered, leaving only the weight of what was pacing me. Then I saw him, not it, not yet him, standing at the roadside in the spill of my high beams, a man, or close enough to one, bare feet blackened with dust, jeans shredded to ribbons at the thigh, a flannel shirt clinging in tatters. His head hung low. His hands clawed against his knees like he was holding himself together by force. Every nerve in my body screamed, "Don't stop." But my foot betrayed me. The ute slowed, gravel spitting under the tires. He raised his head. The face was raw from sun, but the eyes, amber, burning from the inside out. Scars ran around his wrists. Twin bands, as though something had once shackled him. He stumbled forward, one hand out, and I realized he wasn't hitching. He was warning. His lips worked around words that never left his throat, until one did. Cracked, desperate, run. The word hadn't cooled in the air before the change took him. It started in the shoulders. Bones cracking sideways with a snap that echoed off the scrub. His chest caved, then ballooned, ribs stretching, tearing through cloth with wet pops. His arms lengthened, elbows bending wrong, claws black as obsidian curling from his fingertips. His jaw unhinged, teeth splitting the gums in rows too long for a human mouth. The howl that tore out of him wasn't dingo, wasn't dog. It was a layered note, vibrating between man and beast, pitched low enough to rattle the ute's windows, and high enough to make every hair on my neck stand like wire. I slammed the ute in reverse, too late. He lunged forward, half running, half crawling, body caught between forms, every motion grotesque with unfinished anatomy. He hit the hood in one bound, claws carving steel, headlights sparking off into the dark. His face slammed against the windshield, fangs snapping. At glass, each bite spraying saliva that hissed where it landed like acid meeting stone. Windshield spiderwebbed in a single breath, I screamed, fist slamming the wheel, his hands punched down, claws spearing into the roof. The ute groaned under his weight. I hit the accelerator, engine shrieking. The ute fishtailed on red dirt, throwing up clouds. The beast held, riding the hood like a demon, snapping and snarling, claws dragging sparks from the metal, the charm. On my wrist, seared hot, branding me. Reflex kicked in. I pressed it to the glass. For one heartbeat, the beast reeled, head jerking back as if I'd shoved fire into his skull. His howl went sharp, furious, hurt. The windshield cracked further. One last barrier between me and him. I could see his face clearer now, eyes rolling gold, skin splitting in rivulets as fur forced through, jaws elongating, nose flattening into a snout. This wasn't a legend. This wasn't a story. This was an Outback Werewolf, Dreamtime curse made flesh, and I was trapped with it. If the snap of bone made you wince, hit like right now, and let the algorithm know you survived the first strike. The ute couldn't take it. Metal screamed, tires skidded, and the beast's weight crushed the hood down like a beer can under a boot. I yanked the wheel, desperate, and the Outback answered by swallowing us whole. The front axle clipped a rut. Hidden in the dust, the ute bucked, lifted, then crashed sideways, glass burst, steel folded. The airbag detonated into my chest like a mule's kick, knocking the breath out of me. For a second, the world was nothing but red dust. Headlights, spinning wild across the scrub, engine choking itself to death. When the dust cleared, silence ruled again, except this time. I wasn't alone. The windshield was gone. The hood was shredded. The driver's side door bent outward, claw-gouged. My body ached with fire across my ribs. Blood in my mouth, my wrist blistered raw where the charm had seared me, and in the distance, out, where the mesas cut the night, came that howl. Not far now, not far at all. I staggered out of the wreckage, boots sinking into red dirt, the desert stretching endless under a swollen moon. My breath came ragged, every inhale dragging dust into lungs already torn by adrenaline. Behind me, the ute hissed and spat, fluids leaking like blood, lights dying one by one. The scrub shifted. A low rustle, then another. Amber eyes blinked open in the dark, not one pair, many dingoes, their bodies weaving low through the brush. But they weren't hunting me. They were circling him, waiting, following, like lesser dogs trailing there. Halfa, and then he came. The Outback wolf stepped from the scrub, taller now, form fully chosen. Fur the color of dust, shoulders broad enough to block moonlight, jaws lined with too many teeth. His chest rose and fell in a rhythm that shook the ground, like he was drawing breath from the desert itself. He didn't. Rush he didn't need to, he knew the rule. Out here the land works with predators, not against them. My blood already scented the air. My fear already marked the trail. He had all the time in the world. I ran anyway. The desert floor dragged at me, soft red dirt clutching my boots. Every step a fight against gravity and thirst. The scrub whipped my arms raw, thorns tearing skin, but pain didn't matter. Behind me came the sound of pursuit, not the crash of something forcing speed, but the steady, inevitable lope of a predator that knows you can't escape. Every few steps I heard the claws hit stone, sparks hissing, then the panting breath, low and guttural, syncing with my own. It wasn't just chasing me, it was measuring me. The mesa loomed larger, black teeth gnawing at the stars. I remembered the stories whispered around campfires, Dreamtime spirits buried in rock, guardians that punished those who crossed their songlines, and now I was sprinting straight into its shadow, as though the land itself had arranged this meeting. The howls rose again, dingoes this time, yipping, shrieking, driving me forward. My ribs screamed with every inhale. My ankle twisted on a stone, but I didn't stop. Stopping meant teeth. I stumbled into a dry creek bed, the sand looser here, my boots sinking deeper. I clawed my way up the other side, fingernails packed with grit, lungs tearing themselves open. Behind me, claws shredded sand. A growl rolled through the creek like thunder trapped in stone. I turned just once, too terrified not to. He stood in the creek bed, framed by the moon, shoulders heaving, eyes molten amber. Around him, dingoes crouched in the scrub, ears flat, not daring to move until he gave them leave. The charm at my wrist pulsed again. Fever, hot, blistering skin. The beast snarled at the sight of it, not with fear, but with fury. Because in that moment I understood. This wasn't a hunt, it was a ritual. The Outback wolf wasn't chasing me for food, he was driving me somewhere, delivering me to something. And the mesa waited. If glowing eyes closed in on you from every side of the desert, where would you run? Drop your answer in the comments, I'll pin the smartest escape. The mesa rose above me like the back of some ancient beast, spine hunched against the stars. Its silhouette wasn't just stone, it was memory, carved deep into the land long before men brought fences and roads. I staggered into its shadow, chest on fire, throat shredded with dust. And in that stillness, I felt something older than fear press down on me. The howls behind me quieted, not gone waiting. The Outback wolf didn't rush me here. He slowed, padding into the open ground at the mesa's base like he'd brought me home. The dingoes fanned, out in a half circle, their eyes catching moonlight, low whines leaking from their throats. Not hunters, supplicants. The charm blistered my wrist, the smell of scorched skin rising. My hand shook as I pulled it away, but it didn't matter. The heat wasn't protection anymore, it was recognition. The wolf, no, the man inside it, lifted his head, and for the first time I saw remnants of human in that monstrous face, scars older than my birth, eyes that remembered too much. His jaws peeled open, and against the growl and the snap of teeth, one word rattled free. Bloodline. The air grew heavy, almost wet, like the earth itself was holding its breath, and memory that wasn't mine slipped into me fast and brutal. A Dreamtime story whispered in smoke and ochre, of a spirit beast bound into men's bones, as punishment for breaking the laws of the land. Settlers arriving, taking, burning, cutting roads into sacred veins. The curse spilled, latching onto them. Dingoes followed, howled, learned the new blood. Families whispered their sons were different, stronger, angrier. Some vanished into the scrub on red moons, never to return. Others hid in plain sight. Scars banded around wrists where chains once held. The vision burned out as quick as it came, leaving me on my knees in the dirt, skin crawling, heart hammering. The mesa loomed silent, but I understood now. This wasn't a random attack. This wasn't bad luck. The wolf had chosen me because I fit. Somewhere in the veins of my own family, a thread had run back into this curse. Maybe through convict blood, maybe through black soil sins no one told me. But the Outback wolf knew, and he was here to bring it forward. I staggered back, shaking my head, refusing the thought. When the dingoes moved closer, their eyes weren't hungry. They were expectant, waiting for me to shift, to howl, to join. The wolf dropped onto all fours, claws digging red dirt. His eyes locked onto mine, and the message was clear. I wasn't prey. I was kin, and kin doesn't get to run. The charm on my wrist cracked down the center, split clean, its ember guttering out. The air stank of burnt wood and sweat. My skin pulsed, blood thrumming like a drum. For the first time I noticed it, my breaths syncing with his. My heartbeat finding his rhythm. The mesa groaned. Or maybe it was just the wind spilling down its flanks, but in that sound, I thought I heard voices. Not whispers, but echoes. Generations, all of them locked to the same curse. I wasn't the first, I wasn't going to be the last. The Outback wolf padded closer, slow, deliberate. His muzzle brushed the air between us. Breath hot, eyes molten. My body tensed, my blood surged, and deep down some part of me wanted it. That was the truth the mesa had waited to tell. The curse doesn't hunt strangers, it hunts home. Curses like this don't end. They echo. Subscribe now and join the archive before the next howl finds you. The mesa wasn't just stone anymore. It felt alive, a spine hunched against the stars, every shadow around it pulsing like veins under a hide. The air smelled of iron and dust, sharp as blood on old nails. The Outback wolf circled me, slow, deliberate, his claws carving furrows into the red dirt. The dingoes crept closer, pressing their bellies low, tails stiff, eyes locked on me like a jury waiting for a verdict. My heart hammered in my chest, but it wasn't just mine. Each beat echoed with his, sinking, doubling until it felt like my ribs couldn't contain the rhythm anymore. He stopped, shoulders heaving, and for a breathless moment, the night froze. Then he howled. The sound wasn't just a howl, it was a command. The dingoes answered in a frenzy, their voices clawing the stars, a storm of sound that shook dust from the mesa's face. The moon went blood red overhead, the light staining. The desert like spilled wine. That's when my body betrayed me. My wrist, scarred by the broken charm, throbbed hot, pain shooting up my arm into my chest. My bones ached as if they wanted to answer the howl. My teeth clenched, jaw popping, vision swimming in amber haze. My nails lengthened just enough for me to feel the pressure. Not claws yet, but the promise. Of claws the wolf saw it and he smiled. He lunged, not at my throat, not to kill, to brand. His claws raked across my shoulder, shallow but hot, leaving 3 deep stripes that burned with fire. My scream ripped into the night, joining the chorus whether I meant it to or not. The dingoes howled louder, thrilled, as if the blood on the air had confirmed what they already knew. I was being claimed. I fell to my knees, the earth shaking beneath me. My vision split. The mesa's shadow flickered with figures, tall and wolf-shaped, pacing its edge like ghosts. For a second, I saw them all. Generations of Outback wolves, convicts and hunters and forgotten men, each cursed, each bound to the howl. The wolf pressed his snout close, breath hot, eyes molten gold. The message was clear. You're one of us now, but something in me rebelled. Survival, stubbornness, call. It what you like. The refusal to let the land rewrite me. My hand clenched the broken charm, its jagged edges biting into my palm. I shoved it against his chest. The smell of burning fur filled the night. He roared, staggering back, chains of saliva snapping between his fangs. The pack yipped and whined, uncertain. I staggered to my feet, shoulder bleeding, vision swaying. The mesa loomed behind him, its face split by cracks that looked like open jaws. He stood there, howling in pain and fury, the sound rolling over the desert like thunder, and I knew, whether I fought or ran, whether I lived or died, I was already marked, because once the Outback wolf puts his blood into yours, the choice isn't if you change. It's when the mesa shuddered, dust spilling from its flanks. The pack's eyes glowed brighter. The wolf's roar swallowed everything, and I understood. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. This isn't the last transformation. The next one is worse. Follow the howl to the story waiting on screen. The Outback went quiet, not peaceful quiet. The held breath of something that isn't finished. The mesa loomed like a watchtower, its shadow bleeding across the sand, my blood dripping into the dirt to mingle with centuries of other stains. The werewolf had retreated for now. His pack melted into the scrub, their amber eyes blinking out one by one until only the wind moved the spinifex. But I knew he hadn't spared me. He'd marked me. My shoulder throbbed with his claw's memory, hot, pulsing, alive. Every heartbeat felt less like mine and more like his. I staggered away from the mesa, ribs screaming, shirt plastered to me with sweat and blood. My ute was gone, shredded carcass miles back. My compass spun nonsense in my hand, as if the land itself had decided directions were no longer mine to command. I walked anyway, half blind, guided by the red moon burning high, by dawn the desert. seemed to forget. The air warmed, cicadas sang, and a wedge-tailed eagle circled overhead like nothing had happened. But I couldn't forget, not with the scar carved across my shoulder, not with the howl still echoing inside my bones. When I reached a roadhouse 2 days later, the station hand who'd given me the charm was waiting out front. He looked at me once, at my blistered wrist, at my scar, and he just shook his head. "Told you," he muttered. Then he turned his face away, like seeing me was dangerous, like acknowledging me gave the curse more room to breathe. And here's the part I don't like to say out loud. When he turned away, something inside me growled, "Lo, animal mine." The mesa had delivered me to him, and he hadn't killed me. He'd let me go, not as prey, not as survivor, as heir. That's the thing about the Outback rule. They tell you not to stop when you hear the howls, but the truth is darker. It doesn't matter whether you stop or not. If the wolf wants you, if the bloodline calls, you're already his. And when the next red moon rises, when the chorus begins again, I don't think I'll be running anymore. I think I'll be answering, "The desert doesn't forget. The Outback keeps its own family. And now, I belong to it." The pack grows stronger with every whisper. Share this tale if you dares, and join us before the curse finds you alone. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our Ultimate Werewolf Horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them. And trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.